Good morning, and welcome to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you to the WHTC Talk of the Town program for this Wednesday, May 27th. I'm Gary Stevens. Eddie Vandenberg will be joining us in about an hour with What's New Around Holland. We'll have open line following the 10 and 11 o'clock news blocks. And in about an hour, we will be joined by Steve Rusticus of the Holland Rescue Mission for an update on how the Holland Rescue Mission is handling caring for the needy during this COVID-19 situation. But on this first segment, we are pleasantly joined by the affable County Clerk and Register of Deeds of Ottawa County, Justin Roebuck. He joins us via the Zoom connection. Justin, good morning, and welcome back to WHTC's Talk of the Town.
Good morning. It's great to be here, Gary. My hair's a little longer than last time I was here, but
same here. No, I don't have access to any home hair repairs, and the dear Holly is saying, no, I'm not going to cut your hair, and trying to find barber clippers is almost an impossible task, I'm afraid, online. So it'll be a little bit more bushier for a few more weeks, I'm afraid. But let's talk about some of the things. And again, we're on a Zoom connection with Justin, which means we will have the video of this a little bit later on our Facebook page at 99.7 and 1450 WHTC. But you can join the conversation via the telephone at 395-1450, 395-1450. Since last we talked, Justin, the May 5th election went smoothly for the municipalities that had elections, or shall we say the school districts, Grand Haven and Hudsonville, as well as the far northeast corner of Ottawa County, part of the Kennewa Hills district. I want to say no surprises, but then again, not that many people had to vote, but the way that things ran in the county had to be very pleasing to you and other election officials.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I first of all, just hats off to our local clerks and our election workers. They are an amazing group of folks. We had some pretty unique challenges going into the May election with an executive order that sort of, told us how we had to change our processes within about a 3-week period of time. So that was significant. And, overall, it was a really positive experience for our clerks, for our workers, and our voters. We had about a 27% turnout, which is frankly higher than some August primary elections have been here in Ottawa County. So we more than doubled that turnout. And again, obviously, this was conducted primarily by mail, which is actually not a big change for a May election. May elections typically see about 75% of the votes that come in a May election are absentee ballots in a normal election. So this was obviously a higher percentage. We had about close to 19,000 voters, and we had 372 of those voters actually come in person to vote and cast their ballot. They were able to do that, obviously, but it was a dramatic increase, obviously, over typical elections in terms of the number of votes absentee.
You don't want to have to do this again in August, do you?
Not particularly. I will say, I'm a strong proponent of in-person voting. I believe, that is a right that folks have, and we want to, make sure, our real focus is doing everything we possibly can, to ensure a safe process for our clerks, for our workers, and for our voters in August. So I'm a strong proponent of in-person voting. I'm also a strong believer in absentee voting. And I think we have a great system here that, can accommodate both. But we do have some challenges strategically going into August and November, just ensuring that we have the equipment, supplies that we need, and the workers that we need.
Now, the thing is, Justin, to be able to conduct a ballot such as this under these circumstances, you got to really have everything, all the ducks lined up ahead of time. Obviously, the May situation, a little dicey because of the short time. Now that we have a few weeks ahead of the August primary, and granted, things might change because of the COVID-19 situation between now and August. but being able to be prepared for the worst case scenario. You have some time. So, as obviously the August primary will be a little bit more intense because there'll be a lot more opportunities for people to cast ballots.
Sure.
And more people, you're ready for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, in reality, clerks are planners, and clerks, by nature of the work that we do, are continually looking ahead. So, I mean, we were planning for a big election, last November and December as we were kind of gearing up for this year, right? Preparing for a big election cycle. But, in reality, of course, the COVID pandemic has drastically altered life for all of us, and of course for us in the election business as well. We have a whole new list of challenges that we have to face. But I'm a strong believer in the fact that our elections are a symbol of who we are as a country, and our resilience as a country. And so we're moving forward with some, again, amazing clerks who are dedicated to this process just as much as I am, at the local level. One of our challenges in particular is the fact that our election workers are an at-risk group of individuals in terms of, their age demographics. 74% of our election workers here in Ottawa County are over the age of 60. We've had many, many election workers indicating that they are not comfortable working in the precinct this year. And I understand that, and I understand that concern. And that's why we are, advocating that folks have the opportunity and the right to vote absentee as well. And we want to make sure that people, there are many, many, many thousands of Ottawa County residents that feel comfortable doing that and want to engage in that process. And so we want to make sure that that opportunity is available to them too.
Speaking about absentee balloting, there was a little bit of a flap earlier this month between the White House and State Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson over the absentee ballot situation. The White House thought that the actual ballots were going to be mailed out, but it's actually the applications for the absentee ballots. But for those in Ottawa County expecting to see a letter from the Michigan Secretary of State on this matter, I'm afraid they're not going to get that letter. Explain.
Yeah, absolutely. We basically feel like, my philosophy as an election administrator is that elections are handled best at the local level. And the reality is we know that we have the resources here in Ottawa County that we need. We're very grateful for the help from the state, obviously, when it comes and when it's needed. But I think what our voters will see in Ottawa County is actually a notification from the county, and it's done in conjunction with every one of our 23 local jurisdiction clerks. And it's basically notifying voters of their right to vote absentee and providing them with that application. So this was not done out of Lansing. This was done locally. This is something that we firmly believe is important to communicate to our voters. All of our local clerks are on board with that. And, I think it's really important to know too, that with an application to vote, now there are some states that do actually mail ballots. We have 5 states in the US that conduct entirely vote by mail elections. Michigan is not one of them. We are not, I do not advocate for that. We also don't have the infrastructure for that. Frankly, we do not have the capacity to even do that. But even if we did, I would not advocate for that. There's a huge difference between being mailed an application to vote by absentee and being mailed an absentee ballot. So if you're mailed an application, you have to fill that application out. You have to sign that. There's a 5-year felony if you provide any misinformation on that application. And essentially, only when your application is received by your local clerk and your signature is verified against the signature they have on file would you ever get mailed a ballot. And that same check happens again when you mail your ballot in. So your ballot, the signature that's on the ballot envelope is also checked again against your application and against the signature that's on file. So kind of a dual security process with the ballot itself. And our local clerks do an extraordinary job in keeping that security. They're calling voters who they see signature mismatches, and they're saying, what's the deal here? We don't see a signature that matches. So, we give that voter an opportunity to come in and verify that they are indeed that voter, and re-sign what we call the master card, or the voter registration card. So there is a lot of security involved in that process, and mailing ballots is different than mailing applications. I will tell you that.
One other election question, then we'll move on to other things, Justin Roebuck. And can we say for the most part that the August ballot is set in quote unquote stone? Nobody can put their name in for a candidate, or districts or communities can't put proposals on. Pretty much it's ready to go to the printer?
It is, yeah. We are working hard on that actually as we speak. We're programming the August ballot to be delivered to the printer. So the ballot itself, there's 364 total candidates across the county that have filed for office. Number of proposals. Those both candidates and proposals could be found on our website as well, if anyone's interested in taking a look at that. But both of those deadlines have passed. We do have a write-in candidate deadline. We always have that opportunity, and that's the second Friday before the election. So we've got 2 weeks out from the August election. There's a deadline to file as a write-in candidate if you want votes for you as a write-in to actually count toward your candidacy. So that's really the only thing left out there for the August election. Those ballots will be sent to the printer shortly. We have a federal deadline to have ballots on hand actually by June 21. That's 45 days prior to the August election. So we're working hard to ensure that we meet those deadlines.
395-1450 if you have a question for Ottawa County Clerk and Register of Deeds, Justin Roebuck, and he'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450. Let's go to another related topic in terms of dealing with change or curtailment of operations, and that is, of course, handling matters with the clerk's office. And part of what the clerk has to do is to take care of the circuit court records as well. People are still needing to get those records. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our court operation is one where we have the most actual staff present on hand. And that, of course, is to service and make sure that we're providing the best service for our court system. Almost every hearing that the judges are conducting at the circuit court level is being conducted remotely. And so that's been overall a very smooth process for our judges and for the court. We are on hand there, of course, to accept filings. A lot of those filings are accepted electronically now. But literally since the shutdown in March into April, we haven't run the numbers yet for the month of May, but just in March and April, we did a little over 17,000 or almost 18,000 documents. Processed them in the court. 88% of those documents have been processed from home. So that means, accepting them in, the workflow process that is all digital now. Our judges can see these files that they need on a digital level from the bench in the courtroom. We're indexing and processing those documents. And, almost 18,000 of those have been done just in 2 months, it's under average, obviously, because some of the court operation is not continuing as normal. But it's actually not substantially under average, probably only a couple thousand documents under what we would normally process. So that's really good news, from the perspective that our staff is still, working hard for our taxpayers. We're still conducting that job, but also from the standpoint of the fact that we are not going to have a huge backlog when we come back to work and when things do clear up and when it's a little more normal.
Now, the other thing that the county clerk has to take care of is some of the other records, not only records involving the court, but also some of the legal records that need to be handled, such as the vital records and stuff like that. And so far, again, the office seems to be doing a good job on that.
Yeah, we processed, a ton of records over the past. Almost 800 vital records have come through our office just in the past 2 months. And that's records that we've created: birth records, death records, and marriage records. And then we've serviced several customers in terms of getting certified copies out to customers as well. A couple thousand certified copies have been issued just over the past couple of months. So again, the process just keeps moving forward. We've changed how we conduct things a little bit because the buildings are closed, but we have been able to do that. One of the significant ways that we've been able to do that on the marriage license front, initially, as marriages were not deemed an essential service, we were required, or we moved toward not issuing marriage licenses because they do require an in-person visit. We have to verify, obviously, that the couple is who they say they are. They have to sign a legal document in order to get a marriage license, and they have to provide us with some supporting documentation as well, such as their birth records and driver's license, so forth. But let me tell you, Gary, we received a lot of calls, and I talked to a lot of folks who were getting ready to get married, people going through a whole lot of hard times right now, just in general. And then, compounding that with the fact that, they've got venues that have canceled on them and deposits that they may not be able to get back. And I realized I'm not going to stand in the way of people getting married on top of all of that. I do not want our office to be the reason that people cannot get married in Ottawa County. And so we figured it out. We worked around a system of making sure that we could do that safely, securely, by mail. People still have to go to a notary. They have to sign their document, their legal document, in front of a notary. But they're mailing us documentation. We're mailing it directly back. We actually have a secure email portal set up as well that they can securely send documents. We don't want them just floating around the internet. But we can do this securely now. So we have processed hundreds of marriages licenses just in the past month and a half. April 15 was the beginning of our new process for issuing marriage licenses. We're very pleased that we can do that.
395-1450. Good morning. You're on the line with the County Clerk, Justin Roebuck.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Stevens. Good morning, Mr. Roebuck. Thank you for your service. It's another wonderful day here in West Michigan. I did some research when I was a college student about the history of democracy in the United States and the Republic and so forth. And back in about 1776, you had to be a property owner in order to vote. Now we have people that are from foreign countries and so forth. And I think we're being taken over by foreign influences. And you ever go to San Francisco or Sacramento, California, they have something called revolutionary communism. They have elections in communist Cuba, but they're all kind of rigged and so forth. Did you talk about how people should be qualified and intelligent and vote intelligently here in Ottawa County in order to cast a legitimate valid vote?
Well, thanks for that question. And I think I heard most of it. There's a couple things I didn't quite catch, but I mean, in terms of being able to cast a valid vote, that's governed by federal law. And under the federal statute, you have to be 18 years of age, you have to be a U.S. citizen, and you have to be registered. And so those are the criteria that we absolutely enforce here in Ottawa County. You're absolutely right. Our system has changed drastically since the 1700s in a lot of ways. And folks, who are eligible to vote are those who are 18 years of age and older and who are currently registered and on the voter registration rolls. And that's something that we enforce vigorously. Part of the security of our election is determining that. But, I think it's important that people know that elections are local. Every election is local. I think it was Tip O'Neill, the old Speaker of the House under the Reagan administration, that said all politics is local. Well, that's definitely true when it comes to elections because, they're handled in your community, especially in Michigan, actually, where we have a very decentralized election process. The city of Holland, they handle the registration rolls for the city of Holland. Zeeland City and Township, they're handling the registration rolls for their community. These are people, these are your neighbors. These are clerks who you elect and put in these offices on the local level. And they know their voters in a lot of cases. And they, of course, don't have the capacity to know every voter, but they have the capacity as a local clerk to properly serve every voter and make sure that their voter rolls are accurate and have integrity, and that the process has integrity. So that's what I would encourage folks to, to remember, is that there's a whole lot of talk right now on the national level about how elections work. But remember that here in Michigan and here in Ottawa County, your election process is local. How you elect a president happens at the local level. And that's, I think, the way it should be.
Justin, I brought this up with your Allegan County colleague, Bob Janetsky, in his visit earlier this month. I'll bring it up with you as well. The ongoing concern over title fraud and how your office is trying to stop those as the Register of Deeds from somebody basically rustling up the widow's property as they did in the old Western movies, but they're doing it legally, and you're trying to make sure you can head them off at the proverbial pass.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think, it's actually a fast growing nationally. It's a pretty fast growing method of fraud, unfortunately, of white collar crime and white collar fraud. And this is a concern that we've had for a long time. In the Register of Deeds office under Michigan law, it's pretty easy to record a document such as a quitclaim deed, deeding property from one person to another, because under the law, all we have to look for is the fact that it meets certain statutory requirements as a document. So we're not a party to any more knowledge than that. We don't know the parties that are listed on the document. We just have to check and verify that it meets the statutory recording requirements. So one of the things that we have been actively doing for a number of years now is called our property fraud alert system. And basically all this is, you can go online to miottawa.org/ROD, Register of Deeds, and you can sign up for property fraud alerts. They're totally free. You would put in your email and your phone number, and you can choose whether you'd like an email or a text or a phone call from our office if any document is recorded with your name on it. And so in other words, it's just sort of a method for us to notify you of, hey, if you weren't aware of this, a document today was recorded with your name on it. So you can kind of verify whether that document was legitimately recorded or not. And it's kind of, I equate it to something like a credit score. Certainly liens and documents recorded on in someone's name do affect our credit scores, actually. But you just kind of want to check your credit score every couple of years to make sure that no activity is going on that you're not aware of. And it's the same thing with your property. It's an important piece for most of us. It's probably the biggest individual asset that we have is our home. And so it's really an important thing to just kind of check out. You can go on our website and find out more. Certainly give us a call at 994-4510 too if you have any questions on it. We're happy to talk with folks about property fraud alerts.
More information about what's going on in the Ottawa County Clerk and Register of Deeds office. We'll put a link to it online when we put our audio podcast on our website at WHTC.com in a few minutes. Ottawa County Clerk and Register of Deeds, Justin Roebuck, thank you very much for joining us today on WHTC's Talk of the Town. Wish you and the family well, and if all goes well, we'll do this again next month.
Sounds great. Thanks, Gary. It's great to be with you.
Thank you very much. That's Justin Roebuck on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC. CBS News with Deborah Rodriguez is coming up next, followed by WHTC News with Peg McNichols. Some open line time. Patty Vandenberg at the bottom of the hour. And then we'll be chatting with Steve Rustigas of the Holland Rescue Mission on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.